There we go. First item we have for your consideration tonight is a variance request pertaining to 707 East First Street, which is shown on the picture here. The variance that we're looking for is a variance to the maximum size of accessory structures. Within the R2 district, you can have, without a garage, 2 structures up to 1,000 square feet. In the situation here, you have got a parcel which consists of 4 lots, which has a home which was built in 1917, which is non-historic, and you have this structure here, which from the aerial view doesn't look like much, but is a very historic structure in our town. And within your packet, had information in there that the building dates to 1859, as Star Iron Works, has a lot of history to it, and is within our historic register. So this building here is an accessory building to the home, and this building in itself is certainly over 1,000 square feet, which would be prohibitive to constructing any further buildings. Mr. Heselton seeks to build another building here, which would be 25 by 45, or 25 by 40, which would be 1,000 square feet, which would really serve as the garage for the home itself. So that's what we're looking at here tonight, is whether this variance here meets the qualifications for approval. Because of the historic nature of the building itself, we did have the HPC, the Heritage Preservation Commission, review this as well. They recommended approval of the ability to construct another building on the site, finding that the separation physically between the Star Iron Works building and the home was far enough away that it wouldn't have a detrimental effect upon it. So this is the Star Iron Works building as we're looking at it now. The brick building itself, Mr. Heselton has used this in the past for his home occupation. Out the back of the building, you can see some of the structures here. Mr. Heselton would be removing some of these structures here once the new garage is built. The new garage would look something like this: existing home on the south or down at the bottom here, and a new garage built here. So that is what's being proposed under this proposal here. Under the definitions for variances, variances are deviations from strict compliance with the city code. Now, the Planning Commission serves as a recommending body to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, which in this case is the City Council. And we can issue a variance upon determination of findings of fact, which are included within our code and also within the staff report here. So when we take a look at the different criteria, I've detailed those, or Justin has detailed those within the staff report. Things that we look at is the physical surroundings of the property. Is there a practical difficulty that results? In this situation, because you have a property that is historic, but is quite distant from the main property to be used practically as a garage, we find that as an unusual situation. There's about a 75-foot separation between these structures, so it really is more difficult to use this Star Iron Works building practically as a garage for the property. It's not based exclusively upon a desire to increase the value of the property itself. It has a unique situation because of this historic nature on the property, combined with it's a large parcel to begin with. We take a look at what sort of precedents that we may be setting if we were to grant this variance on other properties. We believe in this situation that there is a unique situation with the large property, the historic building on it, that would differentiate this from other properties. So in essence, we are recommending approval of the variance per the rationale within your staff report. So Mr. Heselton is here tonight if you have any questions for him, and I can stand for questions as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. All right, commissioners, I'll open up for comments or questions. Yep. Commissioner Tigan.
Mr. Chair, John, it says the structures immediately north of the storm building, that's those 2 metal structures? You said they're not going to go away until after the garage is built?
That is correct. Yeah, the 2 structures located to the north would be going away. I'm just going to bring this over. I got to monitor a couple of things at the same time here.
Are we on a Zoom call too?
We are. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not missing anyone who might be on here. So I'm going to put that here. And yeah, so these 2 buildings here in red would be going away. When you look at the rest of the property, you have the home over here, new garage proposed for this location. This is a carport that's out the back, which is treated separately from these other buildings.
Okay. It just says that he must remove those after, or to make this valid, right? What does that mean?
Means that once the permit has been pulled on this property, there needs to be a time frame for the demolition of these properties.
Any concerns with that?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Tyken. Commissioners, any other comments or questions for John?
I guess, what makes this different than any, I'm sorry, what makes this different than any other variance request, such as the variance request that we had to build a garage just up the street, like 3 months ago?
In this situation here, because this property and the home is on the same parcel, it prohibits any other construction of structures here. And because the Star Ironworks building is quite a distance away from the main home itself, we find that as a differentiating situation here. If this was closer, perhaps you could practically use this as a garage, but because of the distance away from it, we find that practical difficulty does exist within this property itself.
Thanks, Commissioner Maskey. Moment of silence there. All right, Commissioner Tyken, go ahead. Oh, you have something?
No, we're,
Go ahead.
no, I think he was shut.
Okay, Commissioner Tyken, go ahead.
Nope, I had nothing.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve based on the staff report.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of variance 2022-40 accessory structure size for 707 First Street East
All right, Commissioner
with
Tyken.
the
Oh,
4 conditions.
4 conditions, okay. So with the 4 conditions, Commissioner Romans?
I'll second.
Commissioner Romans second. Any other new discussion? And everyone's here, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, the final action on this report will go to the City Council on Monday, June 20th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're gonna go and switch number 4 and number 5 around and take up the site plan for KFC first. So next on the agenda will be the Argonaut Minnesota Ventures Site Plan 2022-39, KFC 1726 Vermillion Street. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners. Tonight before us, we have a site plan request for a KFC restaurant to be located at the northwest corner of Vermillion Street and 18th Street. So on your map here, you can see the location here. It comprises of 4 parcels at present. This is an older aerial photo in 2011 showing what was formerly the Erickson Freedom Gas Station, which has been demolished on the site. And this is an aerial view presently, which shows some of the pavement area, but the building and tanks removed from the site. So when we take a look at site plans, we're taking a look at our zoning, we're taking a look at certain aspects of development, and I'll run through those here today. So when we look at our planning documents, a comprehensive plan, the property is guided commercial, so this conforms with that. Under zoning, the property is zoned C3, Community Regional Commerce. Retail and service uses, including restaurants, are considered permitted uses within that zoning district, so this property meets the requirements of that district. When you take a look at the surrounding area itself, you can see that it is surrounded by commercial development to the north. This is the future Hastings Dairy Store site, former Sunkist Tan. Vermillion Street to the east, 18th Street to the south with further commercial here, and then residential properties directly to the west. Residential home here at 122 18th Street West, and this one up here at 115 West 17th Street. So that is how the property lies. On to the next map here. This is a current view of the property as it sits today. Essentially, the property boundary is about where the tree line is today. This is looking north from 18th Street up Vermillion Street. Bottom picture here shows about where the property line would be, showing some of the existing vegetation and the proximity of this building here to the existing home on 18th Street. So looking at the site plan itself, this is how the site plans to be developed. Restaurant would be located at this location here. There would be two entrances, one off of 18th Street at this location, so people could come in and out on 18th Street, and then a singular entrance, which would be right in, right out on Vermillion Street. And the drive-through traffic itself would function something like this, where you'd have an order board at about this location, drive-through stacking, pickup window on the west side of the building, and then exit onto 18th Street itself. So one of the things we look at is vehicular access and circulation. We did spend some time to try to determine the best way for vehicles to enter and exit the site here. We are comfortable with the plan that is being proposed at present. We've also had MnDOT's review of this as well, because it's on Highway 61, and also because it's part of the larger construction project that MnDOT is planning in a couple of years for the reconstruction of 61. And we've had some discussions over the years about the potential of a stoplight at 18th Street and how might intersection improvements here contend with that. At this point, that's premature. MnDOT's going through that study as we speak, but something to keep in the back of our heads here. That being said, the location of the access points here are acceptable from that standpoint. Take a look at building setbacks. When we have a commercial district, we do not have prescribed minimum setbacks. So we determine the setbacks on a site plan basis here. When you take a look at the setbacks to commercial areas, generally that's not going to be a concern to us. We've got commercial to the north, and we've got adequate room to the south and to the east for landscaping, roadways, and so forth. Looking over to the west, where you got adjacency to residential area, is something that we are taking care in as far as trying to provide the separation that is necessary on that side. When you take a look at the past, the convenience store that was located in Erickson was about 16 feet, so it would be roughly about this location here when you look at the proximity to the property line. What's being proposed here is about a 28-foot separation from the building to the property line, and then you've got the drive-through lane here. So the drive-through lane and the traffic of the cars is generally about 20 feet back from the property line. When you look at the property line in consideration of the home is going to be roughly 40 to 50 feet away from the property line. So you're looking at a distance from these cars to the face of the building next door, probably around 70, 80 feet. Within this area here, there's also proposed to be an 8-foot vinyl fence to provide separation, along with the existing tree cover and some more landscaping that would go in there. From a parking standpoint, the site does meet our minimum parking requirements. From a design standpoint, it meets our design requirements. This shows you what the building would look like, combination between a brick and other brick glass and some fiber cement siding, which does meet our requirements from an architectural standpoint. From a landscaping standpoint, it shows some buffer separations that are put in along Vermillion Street here, as well as existing vegetation and trees on the west, and some more trees that are located up in this location here. From a lighting plan, it does meet our requirement for maximum lighting at the property line. Grading and drainage control, there's not a lot to look at here. The site is under an acre and was fully impervious previously, so there's no requirement for on-site drainage on this. Drainage on the site would be through existing storm sewer. They would have to have some rate control on there, but not anything from a quality standpoint. So prior to the meeting, we did receive a couple of comments that were included within your staff report here. One relating to traffic coming in and out of the property, being a concern to the neighborhood, litter from the restaurant itself, and the smell of the restaurant. So I'm bringing that forward for your consideration. We do have representatives from KFC that are on Zoom tonight, from the KFC and the development team, if you have any questions for them, or I can stand for any questions at this time. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, John. All right, commissioners, any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd like to open it up to our guests.
Okay.
Are you Tim and Marcy by chance? Okay. It's not a public hearing officially, but since you're here, feel free to step up here if you'd like to address us, if you have any comments or. You don't have to. I'm just giving you the opportunity. We have a light night tonight, so we're okay on time, so.
It's fascinating to learn, and I'm pretty sure by the time we learn of the plans, that things are pretty far underway.
Could you do me a quick, and just introduce yourselves with your name and your address, just for the public record?
Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Marcy Jorgensen.
I'm Tim Bader.
We live at 122 18th Street West,
Okay,
Hastings,
thanks.
Minnesota.
Okay.
And like I said, things are probably far along as they're going to be. So that is probably my first question. How far along in this process are you? Is it already considerably a done deal? And anything we kind of say is just for formality? Or do we really, can we really weigh in with some considerations?
I can answer that. So there's there are three parts of the process, obviously, is the application process, which is handled by our city staff, John's department. Planning Commission, we look at the planning and zoning of the property specifically. Does it fit within the planning? Does it fit within the comprehensive plan, within MnDOT, Highway 61 corridor plan that's in place, and so forth. So we're just looking at the land use itself to see if it fits the zoning requirements. That's what our commission does. And then the third step, of course, will be the final approval by city council, and that's typically where any other additional comments or concerns would come in. You'd address your city council member or the city council as a whole when that approval process makes its way to the city council. So it's a multiple step process. This particular step is just looking at the land use itself, and is it adequate? Does it fit? There's and obviously it does because it's commercial property, so all along Highway 61. So. But that's what we look at here in this commission, so.
And is it a troublesome piece of property?
I don't know. We'll find out
We've
when we
lived
open
there.
it up
I
here.
was going to say,
so.
we've lived here 8 years and watched it over the years and have racked our brains for something useful to put there. We do think that 18th and that corner is dangerous. One of my other questions was, I understand that 18th is it was widened a couple of years ago to be emergency vehicle use through there to Pine Street. Is that correct? And does that relate at all to the plans?
Okay, sure, Mr. Chairman. 18th Street is termed a collector road, which means it's designated for some higher traffic within there. As far as the widening west of there, I can't remember the time frame or what improvements took place there. I know to the east of it, there was some improvements when it was turned back from MnDOT probably some 10 years ago. But yeah, it carries traffic. It's a strange intersection with the offset in it, and
It is,
it's
yeah.
been a prime concern of ours as far as how we can improve safety at that intersection.
Do we keep track of accident numbers, and do those come into play? So say that this all goes forward, and then it ends up being a safety nightmare that we foresee. Do you keep track of those numbers, and does that come into play into keeping it there? How does that work?
Yeah, as far as the traffic numbers go, MnDOT keeps tabs on crash data and what happens at the intersection there. They have their formulas as far as what would constitute something that would need more immediate improvement. Generally, when you're taking a look at intersection improvements that would become a stoplight, you're taking a look at a certain traffic volume level, not only of the north-south street Vermillion, but of the east-west traffic, and then what type of traffic enters into there. So certainly on their radar screen, we've had some preliminary planning discussions with MnDOT as we look at 61 and going through the study as we speak. And Highway 61 and 18th Street has been one that's been brought up many times.
Okay. So the Freedom gas station obviously didn't work there as a commercial property, right? So my next question is, why would a KFC work?
From that side of things, what would work from a business standpoint is beyond, the jurisdiction of this commission and really the city. What we're looking at is land use itself, how a business chooses to operate, and take a risk on the potential market is really going to be up to the business itself. What we're taking a look at with land use is really what have we looked at in planning? What is the property legally zoned for use? And what sort of impacts does the specific building itself or use have on the neighborhood?
Okay. And there's been other things proposed and looked at from the planning
Not
committee?
officially on this one since Erickson closed. That's been a number of years ago now. I talked to a few people over the years, but nothing official, nothing that certainly has gone as far as the KFC.
Okay. Everyone's kind of baffled.
Right.
What to do with that property, right?
Yeah.
Did you have questions?
My biggest concern would be the barrier between the properties, if there was a drive-through establishment there, and the direction in which the drive-through spits traffic out. I believe you shouldn't have a choice but to make a left coming out of there.
Yeah.
Those are my concerns on that particular project. I not really excited about the smell of fried chicken on a regular basis, waffling into our home. And I know the neighbor behind me feels the same way.
We know it decreases our property value. We, when we moved in, the Quick Trip was just going in, and I was worried about that, but we've ended up loving the Quick Trip because they're a very good company. They keep those lights on LED, and you know what I mean? They're just, and it's very convenient. So this, we know, is going to obviously decrease our property values. It is a safety issue. Within a block, we have both a wet house that requires a lot of community services, if you will, and then a lot of small children on that street. So we are concerned about them as well. But I'm sure that, you know, a big corporation doesn't have our home values much in mind, so it's too bad. But like I said, we understand the troublesome of that property. We would like to see it developed. I mean, it's obviously better developed than not, right? Than being
Especially
an
for
empty
the
lot.
city.
Yeah, we understand
altogether.
that. Yeah, we understand the revenues are important to the city and its functioning. But if we had, you know, if we have our say, we'd really like to see something different there. Something safer, something greener.
I'd like to see if I saw a KFC, I wouldn't mind it over on 55, where the other fast food restaurants are.
Yeah, and where it's,
Majority of the fast food
yeah,
restaurants.
where it's much easier to get in and out of and
Yeah.
to be.
With the frontage road situation and all that, so.
My other concern was the, you know, the Arden Hills, all those truckers turning and going in and out. I'm sure you've considered that as well, you know, keeping their business working and going. So, right?
That's my piece, yeah.
Okay. Any questions for us?
No, I appreciate you coming. There's a second opportunity, like I said, when the city council takes us up. That's
Okay.
also an open, you can also attend that too as well.
We will certainly
Yep,
make an effort.
and we'll make that, I don't know what date it'll be, but we'll talk about that date here once we're done with our discussion.
Okay.
Either way, whichever way it goes, the city council will take it up.
Wonderful.
Thank
So
you.
do you have a date in mind, in case anyone wanna?
Yes, if the planning commission makes a recommendation tonight, it would go next Monday night, June 20th at 7 PM
Monday.
at this location.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you. Thanks
No,
for
thank
listening
you.
to us. We appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming, and your comments are part of our record. We have them right here, so we
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, thank you. Okay, commissioners, go ahead and open it up for discussion. Okay, Commissioner Peters?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions, kind of related to some of the feedback that they had. One of the questions, I'm assuming that the trees that are kind of form that barrier will be removed. So the vinyl fence that's going in, do we know, does that go all the way to the ground, or will there be a gap? I'm just thinking about the garbage and stuff. If it goes down to the ground, then there would be less space for garbage to be blown or anything through there, to just kind of reduce that.
Sure. Commissioner, I believe that the fence would go all the way down to the ground level, and I understand your concern on the reasons why it should. And
Yeah.
I believe that's something that needs to be done.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if you know, because sometimes those
That
fences
little
have
gap
that gap.
that things
yeah.
can blow underneath, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because paper could even blow through right there. The other question that I had, it looks like there's a space for outdoor seating. I don't know, but I don't see in the plans, I'm just wondering if there is outdoor seating. I didn't see anything specific in the plan, but it almost looks like in the loop by the drive-through that there could be some space there. So just wondering if that was part of it, because I think that also could contribute to noise levels and things like that.
Sure. Commissioner, I'm not aware of any outdoor seating. That area that, if you're looking just north of the building itself, would be their
Trees
dumpster
and
area,
garbage.
their waste
Okay.
receptacle
That's
area.
that's what I thought.
Yep.
I just wanted to, when I looked at it again, just
Sure.
wanted to know that. Okay. All right, those are the
Okay.
fence was the main question that I had.
And, Mr. Chair, I should note, there's a few people that are online right now for Zoom, a couple of names I recognize as being involved with KFC. Other people may be from the neighborhood or elsewhere, so I'll leave it to your discretion if you wanted to do a call out to anyone that may be joining us on Zoom that would like to speak to this item. If you're accommodating to that, what I'd ask is, if there's anyone out there that would wish to speak, if they could use the raised hand function on Zoom, and then we can bring you into the meeting if you would like to make any comments on this.
Sure, yes, I'd be interested in hearing any other additional comments from anybody, so when they raise their hand, let me know.
Okay.
Are you talking about the two circles? They look like tables up there?
No, I knew they weren't tables.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what that was.
Oh, no,
I thought it was outdoor.
Yeah, I think we're,
like there was an open space.
Oh, I
kinda
see.
like this area up here?
Oh, right there.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. And John, much like she mentioned, Quick Trip being a good neighbor and so forth, because they realize they're right in the neighborhood. Hours of operation, lighting, has that all been discussed as far as tampering down the lighting a bit? You know, that sort of thing.
Sure. From a lighting standpoint, we have a 0.5 foot candle lighting requirement, which probably doesn't mean anything to anyone. What the heck's a half a foot candle? But requirement on that, which we have up and down through the city, so they are below that. The other requirement is the lighting itself that is used in the site has to be directed onto the site. It can't be pointed out towards residential areas and then, so you can see it very brightly. As far as hours of operation go, I'm not entirely certain of what those are. We do have some representatives from KFC on the line, but perhaps they might be able to answer that question.
Okay, yeah, I do have a question for them too on the loudspeaker for the drive-through.
Okay.
Because, as she mentioned, Quick Trip does not use the loudspeaker at
Okay.
night. I mean, everything's quiet.
Okay.
And so, obviously, that's gonna make a huge difference if that loudspeaker's, pretty loud. So I will have a question for them as well. But do we have anybody on Zoom from the neighborhood that wants to speak? Any raised hands?
We do have a raised hand. I'm not sure if it's pertaining to the company or the neighborhood, but I can bring them into the meeting if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, let's bring them in and
Okay.
let me know when they're in.
All right. Got someone termed Phil Latterberry. You are in the meeting if you'd like to speak.
Okay, Phil, are you with us? Phil, you're might be on mute. We're not able to hear you.
I think you just put the mute button on now. So, Phil, if you want to unmute yourself, I think you were perhaps fine before, but I see the mute symbol on now.
Phil, no Phil?
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with Phil here.
Okay, cool.
Maybe he'll come in a little later on. I'll keep him in the meeting right now and see what happens. So, was there any other discussion point, or did you have a question particularly for KFC? If there's a representative there, I see another hand going up here. again, I'm not sure if this is a representative of KFC or a neighbor, but I can bring Michael Takas into the meeting if you'd
Okay.
like me.
Sounds good.
All right, will do. I think I just, yeah, there it goes. Okay, Michael, you are in the meeting if you want to unmute. Okay, one second, Michael. You're unmuted. It might be on my end here. I gotta see if I can get this thing to turn up here. Michael, can you speak? The fun of technology sometimes. Let's see here. So he's coming across here. So let me try this. I'm gonna just turn my speaker up here. Michael, can you say something? Shoot, he's, I don't know, what's that? Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's going on here, because this should come through here.
Sometimes it's all I don't think you're on audio, if you look on the bottom.
Okay. Oh,
Recording in progress.
okay. Let's
Oh, there we go.
Michael, can you try one more time, please?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, we got it. Sorry about
The
that.
funny thing is I can't really hear you, but that might be okay. You can maybe unmute after the fact.
Okay.
Oh, now I have.
Okay, Michael, go
Uh,
ahead.
My name is Michael Takas. I'm with Bowler Engineering. We're the site development consultants on behalf of Argonaut Minnesota Ventures. Phil, who was trying to get on, is with Argonaut. And just in case he cannot get on, I wanted to jump on. I think we value the input. We want to be a good neighbor as well. We're not looking to come into the community and cause a disruption. We're looking to be an asset to the community. Through our discussions with planning, the screen fence was discussed as an attempt to provide additional buffer space given the proximity of the residential property behind us. And then also to help the height of the fence at 8 feet was also done to help deflect any objectionable noise from the drive-through order point as well. Obviously, current technology is far better than when drive-throughs first came around and you'd sit there and it was like a bullhorn basically blasting. We'll take every effort to make sure that the volume that's coming out of there is adequate to serve our customers, but not objectionable to the neighborhood at large. And, as far as the building itself, this will be a brand new facility, so everything from the kitchen to the HVAC system will be state-of-the-art and up to all the current codes and standards as required. So this restaurant will be way more, way less of an impact than what restaurants would have been 10, 15, 20 years ago. And again, we are looking to be a good neighbor. We do envision most of our traffic is going to go out to Vermilion, be it either through the access directly onto Vermilion or onto 18th and then onto Vermilion. We really do not see our guests coming in from 18th other than just basically coming in directly off of Vermilion if they're heading in the northbound direction. Of course, that will have to be a permit by MnDOT, which we're in the process of having that discussion with them now. Their comments were not in any way saying that we could not get that access of that right turn, right in, right out. I think we actually wind up closing some access points that are out there today and that were there previously. So reducing access points is usually a positive from a traffic standpoint. But anyway, not sure that that's exactly what Phil wanted to say, but I did want to say something on behalf of the developer and the development team, so.
Okay, thanks. A quick question for you. So, do the KFCs typically intentionally vent outwards like a Burger King does? Because they intentionally do that so that when you get into the area, you know you're in the area of a Burger King. Do you intentionally vent out that way, or do you try to keep
In the,
Bit neutral.
in the new stores, I don't know, I wish Phil could, I hope Phil could maybe get on, maybe he could unmute, maybe we could hear him now. So he could weigh in directly on that.
Can you guys, this is Phil Atterbury. Okay, are you guys able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, we do vent to the out. We're unlike a Burger King. A Burger King, they have a flat char grill and you can see the smoke coming out. We don't have any of that going on. We do cook with pressure cookers. So it's really limited to steam and not smoke coming out our vents. They are state of the art, and they do, the air does rise away from our building because all our air conditioners and everything are concealed on that roof. So it needs to vent pretty far up so that we're not, our air conditioners aren't bringing it in. And somebody brought up about outside seating. We do not have outside seating, and we have no plans for outside seating. We don't, in our restaurants, we don't have any outside seating at this point right now. So I hope that answers your question. And just like Michael said, we want to be a good neighbor and do what we can with the fence and to make things pleasant to be on the highway right there.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for? Go ahead, Commissioner Romans.
Couple quick questions on that fence again. I know this comes up quite a bit with this, but is it constructed solid, as in there'll be no slats in it? I'm thinking headlights from vehicles pulling in on the northern portion. And then as well as the soundproofing of that fence. If it's vinyl, is there, I don't know fences in this way, but is there a way to do like the highways on a little bit and the sound insulating? Not even thinking about necessarily the sound coming out of the speaker, but we're known to have some loud vehicles around here sometimes. So whatever can be used to absorb some of that sound to break that barrier up a little bit. So if you can kind of go into a little more detail on what that fence structure is planned to be or what it can be.
Yep. Right now, the fence would be solid panel, so it would be a true screen fence. It would not be a picket fence, just decorative. The goal of it is to provide both visual and sound attenuation. It is not going to necessarily be insulated from the inside. You know, the proximity, that the site is relatively narrow as it exists today, and you know there is a lot of sound, just ambient sound that is coming off Vermilion in traffic, which obviously will be going at a higher rate of speed on Vermilion than what it would be inside our site itself. You know, the height of the fence should really help knock down sound from basically migrating. But I wouldn't tell you that it's, you know, it's not a highway quality sound wall. In this case, because of what we're trying to attenuate, which is basically idling vehicles, I don't know that it would be it would be an excessive amount of over engineering and design for the intended use. The other thing I want to point out is that the large groupings of trees, we are preserving those. Those are actually not being removed, as I think was previously stated. Those are remaining in the screen fences to go in front of those.
Okay, I mean, that's good to know. I you know, my obviously preference here is whatever for noise canceling on that as much as can be. I realize that there was probably already noise from the highway there, but like I said, my concern is probably Minnesota exhaust systems don't last very long, or people intentionally on their trucks make it a lot louder, and that's just quite close there. So whatever we can do moving forward to reduce it to conditions that was before, out of respect for the neighbors, would be something that we should take a look at moving forward. Otherwise, good, yeah. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Romans, thank you. Commissioners, any other? Commissioner Matzke?
Okay, so if the trees are staying there, then the fence is not actually on the property line, it's offset from the property line? And then will you have some sort of maintenance agreement with the property owners to maintain those trees?
And I think the fence is on the line. I think the trees go back and forth between the two properties, at least where the trunks are. They may even actually wind up splitting. Because they're not really uniform.
All
per
the
se.
trees are sitting on your property, on your side of the line, except the big oak. The big oak is on our side, that's it.
We had a comment from the audience here from a neighboring property owner that the trees, except for one large one, are on the KFC property. Am I stating that correctly? Okay.
I'm sorry, we lost the sound again.
Okay, that's on me. I didn't turn my microphone on, but I was talking to a neighbor in the audience here who's here at the meeting tonight, and he states that all the trees but for one large tree are on the KFC property, if that's your understanding.
Again, you know, when the survey tries to identify where the trunk is, it's all about where the surveyor took the shot. So our effort would be, again, like I said, we're not looking to take those trees out, and we'll install the fence.
Right, so,
We'll install the fence, whether it's completely in front of the trees, behind the trees, or woven in between both ways. Our goal is to have that fence installed along that property line as a buffer between the KFC and the adjoining residential property.
right, so my question is will there be some sort of maintenance agreement? So if you need to get in there and maintain those trees, reached with the neighbors? How are you gonna access those trees if there's an issue?
If I would go back, I would default if the tree that has an issue is on the KFC property, then it's the KFC's obligation to take care of it. If the tree is on the adjoining neighbor's property and there's an issue, then they are responsible. I think that's, you know, even as far as trimming things, branches that overhang, you know, I believe in most cases that is the responsibility of the overhang goes into the property, and the property owner who has that tree overhanging wants to trim that, they're allowed and able to do that.
Okay. Alrighty, I'm just,
In most cases.
I just have that issue with Northern States Power. They have no access to my backyard. And yet need to get them back there to come back there and trim trees, and they won't because they can't get back there. So now how are you gonna get back there to do this if, you know?
Again, I think some of the location of that fence is going to be field driven, to work around the actual trees themselves. So I can't definitively say for sure whether all of the trees are gonna be on one side of the fence or the other. If the neighbor who spoke said that they're all on the KFC property, then I would envision that fence would be on the backside of that. Again, all depending upon the size of the tree trunk and, you know, is it straddling the property line or not? That's gonna have to be a kind of a construction, on-site adjustment that's made, you know, as that fence is getting installed.
Okay, and then just to bring wrap the conversation in here, the trees stay, the fence goes in.
Correct.
We'll let everybody handle the ins and outs of the property line, so forth, down the road. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner LeBron?
Just one for John. So, John, as I mentioned previously, we have the Vermillion Corridor Plan on the books. I'm just wondering how this relates. I didn't see anything in the staff report regarding that, so.
Yeah, Commissioner, the Vermillion Corridor Plan that we have, we looked at the district requirements within this area here. There is the the desire to place buildings closer to the street, and you compounding that against how the site develops and how the impact would be to the neighboring property owners there. I mean, we've got a situation, we were looking at the site, taking the building and trying to reconfigure it a number of different ways to see if perhaps a better siting on this might work best to meet the requirements and the suggestions of the corridor plan and better work with the owners next door on that one. With the property directly to the north on that one, at its location set back where it is with the parking in front of it and cross-access easement in between there, we thought it would be best if that building lined up to where it was. We had concerns that the parking area being on the other side of the road, of the building between them and the homes there would create more noise and impact to the homes than it would be on the other side of it. So that's the conclusion that we came up with.
Okay, so the siting was kind of driven by the drive-through configuration of the proposal, correct?
Looking at impacts, yeah. I mean, they're looking at impacts of cross-access between this property and the property to the north, and taking a look at the impacts of vehicles entering and exiting the site.
Okay, and then it's the co-op creamery, or the creamery, sorry, to the north. Were they involved at all in the discussions?
With
as far
this-
as cross-access, or they don't really have a say because of the easement?
My understanding is that there's an existing cross-access easement between the properties, so an existing document that predates Hastings Co-op Creamery's interest in the property.
Sure, okay, okay. That covers that, yeah, and I guess, just for commissioners, my thinking is, you know, site plan, everything aside, you know, also at hand is whether or not we're gonna go forward, you know, with the restaurant overall. When I read through the Vermillion Corridor Plan, what that is kind of shooting for, I'm just not sure if a drive-through restaurant of this form and function is really, you know, with that moving forward. You know, similar uses to the entire opportunity site are referenced, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not, I just can't square it in my head as far as that goes, relating to the future goals of the plan and the corridor, to go for another one of these setups, basically. So that's just kind of my thought. Site plan-wise, it seems like they've done, you know, the best they can with the constraints that they have, but I'm just not sure that's a direction we should continue in relation to that entire corridor, so.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Braun. Commissioner Tyken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a lot of questions about the fences, and it seemed like that's been resolved. I know we mentioned the lighting, the half-foot candle, something or another. My big concern of that is, I think that's an ordinance across the city, but yet, if we light up high enough, people on the ground level will still see that light off the property, and I'm wondering if that's taken into consideration here?
Yeah, Commissioner, when we have the lighting requirement from, you know, an illumination level on that, but we also have a requirement for shielding and cutoff shields for the lighting assembly itself. So, you know, having a situation where you would have a bulb dangling from a pole here that would project in all directions would be something that would be prohibited. It would have to be something that would either be directed onto the site or have shields around it so that you didn't get the backsplash into areas it's not supposed to go.
So if they build something and the neighbors have problems with it, they come to the city and we'll
Right.
take care of that? Okay. Question about the stormwater. How come they don't have to do anything with the stormwater? You said it was impervious, but it's half gravel, half cement today.
Yeah, it is. The requirement for these is driven by, you know, bringing in over 1 acre of new impervious surface. So in this situation, most of it was impervious, and so it doesn't meet that requirement for on-site storage and treatment.
So if a car is leaking oil when they go through the drive-through, that's just gonna wash down into the stormwater?
In that situation, yeah, it would go into the stormwater as it would in other places of the city, correct?
It should be nice to change that moving forward. And then, do we have any ordinances around shielding roof equipment?
Shielding roof equipment, no. We have a policy that anything that is on a rooftop unit would be painted to match or covered by a parapet wall.
Okay, and this conforms to that?
I don't think it has a parapet wall on there, but any rooftop units would need to be painted to match the building.
Painted to match the building.
In my experience, the best situation you have is you can have a parapet wall. If that's not the situation, paint to match. When you try to put a fence or screening up there, it just highlights it to me.
Okay.
I've seen that in the past.
All right. And as far as, you know, the site plan, you know, it's unfortunate that you moved in next to a commercial zoning district, and I totally understand it. I use 18 to get down to Pine because it's a nice, fast route for me. So, you know, personally, it's not gonna be fun to deal with KFC traffic, but that's a personal thing and not a city thing. Restaurants are allowed in that C3 zone. So to me, you know, our focus is very narrow. It's the site plan. Does the site plan make sense? And unfortunately, I shouldn't say that. To me, it makes sense that the site plan is there. I can't say that a restaurant's either a good use or a bad use there because it's allowed there. And that's not really in our preview. So we have to look at it from that standpoint, and I hope you understand that. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Tyken, thank you. Commissioner Romans?
I just had one quick follow-up question. Just looking at this, where is snow removal going?
We have some of those areas that were identified as potential outdoor seating areas in the area,
That center island?
Yeah, correct. You know, that's our largest area. It has a few trees, but it's not really, it's really more lawn than anything else. So it's our largest open space. That's really where we would anticipate most of the snow removal being allocated. There are some other landscape areas around, but that's the largest one that we have.
There wouldn't be any snow piled up towards the 18th Street or Vermillion at all, correct? To block,
I don't believe we have any, other than in a smaller event where you might just have a little bit of, a little quick plow area that mounds up, but nothing as far as wholesale removal and stacking over the winter. We don't envision it there. There's just not enough room over there.
okay, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Just asking the questions just to make sure that everything's considered there, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Romans, thanks. Commissioners, any other questions, discussion? Commissioner LeBron?
One more, John, should this go forward, as I'm looking and as I'm remembering, having walked through there a number of times, I know the sidewalk is in pretty rough condition, especially abutting, the former concrete at the gas station and the little piece between that and the property to the north. And I don't see anything on the site plan, specifically regarding repairing that. I know it can get a little funny, that being MnDOT right-of-way and everything, but is that something that we can require, that the sidewalk be repaired or replaced along the property?
Commissioner, as far as a requirement on that, I don't know if we can. It would be termed an off-site improvement there. If it was part of a plat, we could do that. Since there's not a plat involved in this, I don't think that we could. With the Vermillion Street corridor planning by MnDOT going on right now and our people movement plan, that's gonna be a prime candidate.
All right, thanks, Commissioner LeBron. Commissioners, any other questions? Discussion? John, do we have anybody else with a raised hand in the Zoom?
Mr. Chairman, I do not believe we do.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, seeing as no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion either way. If anybody wants to make one.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve site plan KFC Restaurant 2022-39, 1726 Vermillion Street with the 8 conditions.
Okay, Commissioner Hallberg, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Mansky, second. Any new discussion? If none, take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And one nay. Commissioner LeBron.
And as a reminder, planning commissioners, The recommendation for approval will move forward to the city council on the Monday, June 20th meeting at 7 PM. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for coming, and then June 20th would be the next opportunity. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration and your time. Have a good evening.
Yes, thank you. I almost forgot about you up there on the screen. Thanks for, we appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry, I'm
I
not,
left my camera on just so you knew I was.
no, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. Thanks. Okay, let's jump back into the, next action here, the TC Land Final Plat 2022-33, Heritage Ridge, 4th Edition, and John.
Thank you, Commissioners. Today, we got a final plat application for Heritage Ridge, which is the last phase of development of the Heritage Ridge subdivision, consisting of about 36 lots on 12 acres. The property of this addition is towards the north half. General Sieben Drive is to the east. The existing portions of Heritage Ridge to the south. To the north here, Seas Church is just off screen. And then to the west of the development, we have areas of Ninninger Township, which are agriculture, and to the south, you can see part of the mining operation from Solberg at this location. Comprehensive plan guides the property, low residential. This is consistent with what is being proposed here with the final plat, as well as the zoning with the R2 designation, allowing for the types of lighting and uses that are proposed within the subdivision. So when we're looking at this process here, a final plat, a difference really between a preliminary plat and a final plat is when we do a preliminary plat, we're really going through the plan for subdivision of a larger parcel. We're going through the in-depth review of engineering, streets, grading, stormwater, utilities, all the mechanics that make up and are necessary for subdivision of the property in the future. Now, when we get to the point of final plat, what we're looking at doing is comparing the plans that are proposed here with our preliminary plat and making sure that those are consistent with it. And because now what we're doing is the official lotting of this subdivision and subdividing it into different lots. So when we take a look at our preliminary plat, we take a look at the final plat, this is consistent with it and virtually identical to what we had in the preliminary plat approval. And preliminary plat, we did, Planning Commission did review this back in August of 2020 with council approval in October of 2020. We're taking a look at various aspects of the subdivision, the lot layout, setbacks meet our requirements. Let's go over to here. This is how it fits into the entire subdivision. So Northridge Drive, which would be a collector road, would continue through the subdivision here and provide access. So there's been a little bit of a strain right now as having one entrance in at Fallbrook. This will alleviate that and also serve as a collector road for the future. You can see that it's stubbed out here to the west, and that'll continue on further west in the future. With Northridge Drive comes sidewalk and trail improvements, so that'll be within this roadway as well. So that'll be continued on. We also have a stormwater bonding basin towards the north here that will be included within the subdivision as the outlot. Out the street layout here, Northridge Drive, West Point Circle, a connecting point up here, consistent with the preliminary plat. From a pedestrian access standpoint, sidewalk on the north side of Northridge Drive with a trail on the south side of Northridge, so facilities on both sides of the roadway. Sidewalks will connect to the facilities along Ridge Point and Westview going north here to link up with Northridge Drive. So, and that would connect to our greater trail system and also provide connections further west of the future. Boulevard plan, landscape plan for trees was approved as part of the preliminary plat, will be included on the documents for final plat approval. From a civil plan standpoint, we're going through the review of that with our engineering department at present. Want to ensure that everything is buttoned up here from a drainage standpoint for the entire subdivision. So we're going through that final review now, but do not anticipate that having any effect on the lotting and street locations that are being proposed today. So with the development as it goes to council, we'll be having different agreements that move forward to ensure development, including a development agreement, which is a contract between the city and the developer to ensure that things are constructed the way they need to be constructed. Association maintenance agreement for any for the outlots and stormwater basins, so that the overall maintenance in the long term is a responsibility of that private entity. From a parkland dedication standpoint, with the original preliminary plat, the park board and the council recommended that cash in lieu of land be paid to satisfy park dedication requirements. When they looked at the subdivision, our overall park plan had a regional park in the future in this location more centralized to this development. So that'll be something we'll be looking at in the future upon any consideration of future development to the west. So we are recommending approval of the final plat per the requirements and the recommendations of the staff report, and I can stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks, John. Commissioners, open it up. Commissioner Matzke.
All right, so on the previous plats on this site, there was a geologic issue that came up. Were those resolved? And I'm not sure if some of the commissioners know of some of the previous stuff that was happening. Have those issues been resolved? Do we know if there's gonna be more blasting done on the site? Or they figured out that it's not required for this site now?
Commissioner, there is a prohibition on blasting on any further subdivisions here. So we've added that into the development agreement on the third edition, and we'll continue that forward to the fourth edition. So there would be a prohibition on blasting. From a practical standpoint, would there be a need to remove rock as we move into the future here? From talking to the developer, they think that they have found all those areas and removed those, but I don't know if other stuff might come up here in the future. But if rock was to be found, it would need to be jackhammered, not blasted.
Okay. Have there been any additional complaints from all of this? Has it all been resolved in the previous editions? That all been resolved?
As far as the resolution of complaints, I'm uncertain if they have. I have not heard anything new from residents since the blasting took place last summer. I think maybe the summer before that, maybe a year and a half ago, that the blasting was taking place in this. I am aware that there were insurance claims made. I'm unclear what happened to those.
Okay. So, all right.
Okay. Commissioner Matzke?
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Commissioner Tyken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Make the Planning Commission recommend approval of Heritage Ridge 4th Edition Final Plat 2022-33 TC Land.
All right, motion to approve, Commissioner Tyken. Do I have a second? Not, I'll second it. Oh, Commissioner Halberg. All right, Commissioner Halberg, second. Any new discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then the recommendation on this one we brought forward to City Council. I don't know if it's going to be at the June 20th meeting or not. It may be delayed. We're looking at buttoning up all the final agreements necessary in order before we bring this together in one package. So maybe at a later meeting than June 20th at this point.
Okay, thanks. Next on the agenda is other business. John?
Other business. I know it's been a little while since we've met here as far as action taken place. The last item that we were looking at was a rezoning comprehensive plan amendment for someplace west of Las Margaritas, 22nd, 23rd Street, I believe. That was approved by the council, and the home has disappeared from that site. I think new home will be coming forward in the near future here. Looking at other action items that we have coming before us, we've got a meeting scheduled in a couple of weeks. We are looking at some potential ordinance amendments for discussion that we may have ready for you at that next meeting. So I know of that in particular. I don't have any public hearings at this point scheduled for it, but have that aspect of it. As far as other things going around the community at this point, the Heritage Ridge subdivision continues to move forward with their grading and the lot creation down there. We continue to have good discussions with folks on potential other development coming forward that may be coming here to this commission in the near future. Fleet Farm project is moving forward. We've issued the certificate of occupants temporary for their hiring event. The inside of the building looks like what a Fleet Farm should look like on the inside of the building. They'll be doing some work on the outside of it here in the next month or two, is still looking at a fall opening there. So I think that's most of what I had. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention too was I mentioned a couple of times tonight that MnDOT is going through a large planning effort along Highway 61. So they are planning to reconstruct the entire roadway through town in 2026. So prior to doing that, this year into early next year, they're going about a planning effort to determine what those improvements consist of. And from our standpoint, there's certainly priorities that we've established through our planning documents. And also, we want to be able to have the input from people up and down the corridor. There was an initial public open house that MnDOT had middle of May. And also an online mapping system in which people could go up and down the corridor and note things that they would like to see changed or things that should not be changed on that. I think one of the initial questions that the MnDOT personnel brought up in discussions with the council and at the meeting was, if there's one thing that you could change along the corridor, what would that be? So really kind of isolate that. I know when you take a look at 61, it can be kind of ominous to determine what that would be. Point of this is, we're in the very beginning sections of that right now. When we had the open house, it wasn't the type of open house in which there was any sort of preconceived notion of what the corridor should look like, but more, what would you like to see? And so we've had those comments in right now. I guess there's comments from the audience.
Right.
And those comments will be developed into plans that will again be reviewed by the public. And I'll keep this commission up to tabs of what's going on with that. So that's all I had.
Okay, thanks, John. Commissioners, any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Tyken, motion to adjourn. Commissioner LeBron,
Second.
second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I oppose